Well, good morning, my algebros. Now we are looking at factoring using AC method. And why would we do this? Because when I factor using Xbox, but there is a coefficient greater than 1, I've got a problem. So I can't just factor using Xbox. I need to use a combination of a few things. So before we begin, let's go ahead and review factoring by grouping. Pause the video here and remind yourself how to factor by grouping. Okay, so factoring by grouping, I look at these 4 terms and I see that there is not a GCF among them. So I factor them in order to take out a greatest common factor of each set. The first one I take out 2x and the second one I take out 5. And now I have a GCF of 3x plus 2 that I factor out. And then I have the 2 binomials 2x plus 5 times 3x plus 2. Okay, why do we care about that? Because when I go to do AC method, I see that I need to multiply the A and the C value to go into Xbox. So now we're going to be looking for a factor of A times C that will add up to be B. And then those 2 factors would represent E and F, which would add up to be B, right? And because I have 4 separate terms here, I would then factor using grouping. So let's see what this looks like in the real world. Okay, so I have AC method. So I know I'm going to, Okay, I just did a little example in class for my other classes. So if I have 4 times 15, that's 60. So I need the factors of 60 that will add up to be 16. And I see they're both positive because it's positive 15 and positive 16. So when I look at the factors of 60, I see that 6 and 10 add up to be a positive 16. So I know that my terms in the middle are going to be 6 and 10. But what that really represents is a positive 6x plus 10x, right? And I could switch these. We'll show that in a second. But it doesn't matter which one you have first or second. It'll work the same. But I just need to make sure I write it as a set of 4. So now I factor using grouping. So I can regroup this however I want, but this is how I'm choosing to do it. Now I can take a greatest common factor out. And I take a greatest common factor out. And again, I take a greatest common factor out, which is 2x plus 3. And finally get to regroup. Having my binomial times the binomial. And I could multiply these and prove that it gets back to there. All right, let's look at this again. My 2 terms have to multiply to be 24 and add to be 11. So terms that multiply to be 24, and they're also both positive, to be a positive 11. I know that it's 3 and 8. So I just have to really keep in mind that 11x represents 3x plus 8x, right? And what if I decided to switch it and put the 8x first and the 3x second? Well, I'll do that in blue on the right-hand side. So I factor by grouping. And I regroup after I take another GCF out. And when I do this on the other side, I see that I also factor by grouping, and I get the same thing. So it doesn't matter the order of the addition terms that you have that represented the 11x here. You could have put the 8x first or the 3x. It doesn't matter as long as they add up to be that 11x and multiply to be 12. Or 24, excuse me. Go ahead and pause the video here and see how you do. Okay, we're going to go 3 times 10, pardon me, is 30. And we have already looked at this before. that two terms to multiply to be 30 but add to be 11 are 5 and 6. But I'm not really done yet because I need to remember that splits. The 11 is represented in the 5a and the 6a, and I still have to factor by grouping, taking a greatest common factor out of both, and then taking another greatest common factor out, which is 2a plus 1, and regroup. Now I went ahead and did it the opposite way, switching my 6a and my 5a to show you that yes, we still get to the same place. Go ahead and pause the video here and see how you did. So no matter which way I did it, I get 3x plus 1 times 2x plus 3, and it doesn't matter the order I put those in. Okay, number 4. Now what happens if I multiply now? It's going to have to equal a negative 8, right? Because negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And add to be a positive 7, right? So it's obviously going to be a positive 8 and a negative 1. But I'm not done yet. I have to factor by grouping. I group, take a GCF out, and then regroup after I take another GCF out. All right, you guys give it a whirl. Try this one. Pause the video and then check your work. Okay, we're multiplying to get a negative 20 and add to get 19. So hopefully you can see that pretty quickly, that it's a positive 20 and a negative 1. Because I'll multiply to be negative at 20, but add to be 19. I still have to factor by grouping, taking a greatest common factor out of each group, and then regrouping, taking that other greatest common factor out that happens to be x plus 5. Go ahead and pause the video here and then see how you did. And this is what it would be factored. And if you need to see all the steps, this is what it looks like. Okay, so our last couple of scenarios, what happens if I have a negative middle term and a negative AC? I'm multiplying to be a negative 30, but add to be a negative 7. So here it's obviously going to be a negative 10 and a positive 3. And I still have to factor by grouping. Group, GCF out of each, and then another greatest common factor, which happens to be x minus 5, regroup, and I'm done. Go ahead and pause the video here and then check your work. Let's see how you did. You should have multiplied to get negative 12 and add to be a negative 1. So we know one's positive, one's negative to multiply to get a negative number. And the largest number has to be negative in order to add up to be negative 1. We group, regroup after taking 2 GCF out. All right, go ahead and pause here. And then go ahead and turn to your neighbor and check and see how you did. All right, let's see. How did we do? You should have 9 times 4 is 36, but it has to be add up to be negative 15, so we know both terms are negative. And that would obviously have to be negative 3 and negative 12. But we're not done yet. We have to factor by grouping. Take a greatest common factor out of each term. And then take another greatest common factor, which happens to be 3x minus 1, and regroup. Our last few tries. Pause the video here, work with a friend, and then go ahead and check your solutions. All right, for today practice, we're only doing the first 10 problems in 7-4 in your textbook, not the puzzle, right? Not the puzzle. We're just doing 7-4, 1 through 10 in your textbook. The PDF of the textbook is on Learn, but by now you should really have the textbook.